And the doctor came out, and then, he took him back there, and then the doctor, explained to us, your father has multiple myeloma, he doesn't have very long to live. And look at my mom like, how do we not know this?
What do you think you learned from your dad?
Yeah, I mean, my dad passed when I was 19, and all I can ever think about is man, it would have been great to have had the last 30, 33 years with my dad. For him to be able to see me and everything else. But to be honest, the relationship that we had is probably not unlike many people, many of your viewers, the relationships they've had with their parents too. Is when I say sports can save the world. It's a big statement, but sports can certainly build a relationship. And my dad and my relationship was sports, and it was pretty cut and dry. It was like if we wanted to talk, if I wanted to come to my games, like, be good, start, get on the team, have a winning team, like fight through it. So it was all those things of trying to impress my dad, and there was nothing like, looking in, during a game and seeing him standing in the, in the end zone between the goalposts, with his arms crossed, just sitting there, watching. And he was supportive. He wasn't like, he wasn't hard, like, you missed that tackle, you had that play, but he just loved coming and seeing it. And he was there all through my high school years. He was there through Fork Union. He was there, my first year at Maryland. So I remember getting to watch me suit up, and that was a pretty special day. It's one of the lessons I think that I apply today at Under Armour is that, Dad, why don't you come because you're supposed to come? You're my dad. You should do this. And like that's one tact. The other tact is like, I don't know. Like he likes sports a lot. Like I bet if I'm good, I bet he'll want to come watch me play football. I've thrown enough good parties in my life to know that, you can beg people, you can pay people, you can spiff people, like come to the party, do this, or you can focus on throwing the world's best party and everybody's gonna wanna be there. With my dad, I'm like, let me show you a great time. Like, come watch me play ball. It'll be a lot of fun. And that was something that built a connection of he and I, and something that I frankly translate to Under Armour today. Instead of begging or pleading, let's throw a great party and everybody's gonna wanna be there. That's how I think about the brand.
You remember the 7 a.m. snow shovel days?
Yeah, that wasn't anybody else forcing me though. That was, my goal when I was a kid, for whatever reason, is I always wanted to, I wanted to be independent. I didn't want to have to rely on anybody else because I'd planned on having, a scholarship to go to college. It's one of the reasons I wanted to play football. I wanted to impress them. I wanted, my older brother Stuart had played at Virginia Tech, and I'd been to see a game that they played at West Virginia, and I walked into the stadium and I saw these gladiators on the field. I'm like, I want to do that. I'm like, oh, and they'll pay you to do that? And the idea of being able to say to my parents of like, thank you for, raising me, and I've been a handful for sure, but you don't have to pay for my college. That was, sort of my goal and my ambition. And
even early on, like that, you were conscious of that.
Yeah. I never liked, my dad was, he was tight. He was like, hey Dad, I'm I got a date this weekend. Can I borrow $20? $20? What do you need $10 for? I'm not giving you $5. So.
And he lost a lot in the crash, right?
He went through a thing with real estate where, at the end of his life, he'd sort of been extended. He had one building that he basically bet everything on. And he got caught up with the bank, and sort of things didn't go so well. So,
what do you think that taught you?
Well, I never knew that he had something was really, personal. My father had multiple myeloma. I'll never forget one day. It was my first year at Maryland, and I was, I guess it was my second year. And I came home that day, and I walked in. I remember my mom saying, "Your dad's not doing well," and I said, what do you mean Dad's not doing well? Because he never told any of us. We didn't know that he was sick.
Really?
And so this is August of 1991. And and I hadn't seen him like through this lens. Maybe I just wasn't looking, but I'll never forget. I said, what do you, she goes, can you stay home from your workouts? I'm like, Mom, I got to go to my workouts. Like, what do you want me to do with Dad? And he sort of turned the corner, and for some reason, he just looked so frail. And I hadn't seen it. And I said, Dad, what's going on? And he collapsed. And then he started, vomiting blood. And I'm looking at my mother going, what the hell is going on? And so I pick him up, put him in the back of my mom's car, and I get in there. She's like, his doctor's in Virginia, and it was, a 45-minute drive away. And I think we made it there in 20 minutes. I was shoulder rolling. I was, blowing by people. I've got my dad in the back, and he was basically passed out. Pull up to the front of the hospital, grabbed my dad out of the back, and walked him inside and say, "Somebody help me. Somebody help my dad." And the doctor came out, and then, he took him back there, and then the doctor, explained to us, your father has multiple myeloma. He doesn't have very long to live. I'm looking at my mom like, how do we not know this? And he'd been wearing something like a radiation box that he'd had on him for a period of time. And, I hadn't figured it out, but then he said, your father's, his illness is terminal. And so at that point, it was tough that my freshman year was my first year playing. I was able to start on all 4 special teams that year, and he got to come see me play, which was great. But then we ended up by December, we had him in hospice care, and then we he passed away January 2nd, 1992.
Why do you think he didn't want you to know?
I don't know. It's sort of I grew up in that genre where this wasn't like, "I love you, son."
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we never said that. That wasn't, it was the nonverbal was like, come to the game and kind of give the head nod. And like, that was enough. And it wasn't me going, there's something missing from my life with this. But, it was brutal, at a level, but it was one of those things like, pick up and keep moving. So, I dealt with it, but it's something that served me, and it's something that taught me, the bar that I want for my relationship with my daughter and my son too, which is to make sure with my family that they're in a really loving place, and tell them that I love them every single day, and make sure they hear it from me, and that's what matters most.
You think that at least indirectly played into your work ethic?
Sure. I think wanting the chip on the shoulder. When you don't have a dad, and there's, I guess today, I hate saying it, that's maybe more commonplace. It shouldn't be, because everybody should have a dad that tells them that they love them.